Okay, Stockers, I am back after the screenings of the 4 screenings today that I caught. John Ford's The Brat, Alfred Worker's Bachelor's Affairs, Alfred Worker's He Walked by Night, and a short film, The Killer's Hands. See, that's bad of me, I should know that, but there was a 6-minute short film from Great Britain from 1913 that was a restoration that was shown before He Walked by Night. You know, being as I know nothing about that movie anyway, it doesn't really matter. Let's get down to what I did see today and what I can talk about. So, yeah, this was another full day for me at the moment during there to Save and Project to Save and Project series, which is still going on. It's still going on for at least until this weekend, and maybe even I think until the early part of next week. And there's a lot more to catch up here. So if you haven't looked at their schedule or gone to nitratesstock.net to look at my schedule of their schedule, you should do that now because there's still some great stuff coming up. Now today I guess the big one for me today was they just put together the most complete and pristine assemblage of 1930s The Brat, directed by John Ford. You might have heard of Johnny. He's been around for a long time. Made a bunch of movies. Now this film has been around in various states since it was made in 1930, but this has been this is the best restoration of the film that apparently has existed since 1930, since it was released. It was a weird experience to catch this movie for me because it's kind of an anomaly in the Ford catalog if you're used to the kind of films it used to make. I don't just mean westerns. I mean, films that centered around, as he was, the son of Irish immigrants, a lot of his eventual cinema centered around the nuclear family, the celebration of the nuclear family, whether this was in westerns or in other genres that he made. This was sort of a precursor to the screwball comedies of the mid-30s and the early 40s. It's a class farce, actually. It's really interesting because there's a lot of things in this movie. I actually walked in after the credits started, so I wasn't sure if it was Bachelor's Affairs or The Brat. And for the first like 40 minutes of the movie, I thought it was Bachelor's Affairs until they started referring to the title character as The Brat. That was the giveaway for me. But for a good 40 minutes of the movie, I sort of didn't even feel like it was a John Ford film. You wouldn't really... Once I knew it was his film, then I started to look for some tropes of his that would later, that he'd either done in the silent era or that would emerge in the sound era. And you can kind of pick out a few things: a disdain for authority and the bringing down of high culture by so-called lower culture people. The movie is about a chorus girl during the Depression era who is, I forget now, she's in night court for some reason, and she's bailed out of night court by this upper crust. Again, ladies and gentlemen, these sounds in New York City, no extra charge. You get production value at nitratesstock.net. She's bailed out of night court on whatever charge she's there for by an upper crust author, heir to a fortune, who wants to write about the lower class people, and specifically he wants to study her so she can become the heroine of his next novel. It's a little bit of Pygmalion, a little bit of a precursor to Ball of Fire. You don't have the 7 old men, but you got one guy, and it's not a slang dictionary, but it's an early part of the movie where she says, you're carrying a torch for someone, and he goes, carrying a torch, I'll put that in my next book. So this is sort of a precursor to the Ball of Fire idea. It's unlike his other stuff, and if you know Ford, there were passion projects, then there were works for hire, and then there was stuff that he just phoned in. This was, I would say, a work for hire, but it wasn't something he just phoned in. There's a lot of work that went into this movie. The production design is really interesting. It wasn't just something he phoned in. Like, the lighting is not just flat as it was in a lot of the early talkies because they just planted a microphone and walked away. It's a pretty well-made movie. It's really funny, and it's funny in ways that his other comedies weren't. Like, he got a little raunchy in this film. It's a pre-code film, so you can get away with some things. It was really interesting. I'm really glad I saw it. I think it was the surprise of the festival for me, so maybe I'd have to judge what I've seen so far, but this is up there. It was followed by a movie that I didn't really have a lot of... I didn't really read up about in advance. I knew it was the co-feature on the bill with The Brat, Bachelor's Affairs with Adolphe Menü. Now, that was directed by Alfred Worker, and there's kind of crossovers between the movies. Now, an actor named, I believe now, I might be getting this wrong, his name was Alan Denehart. He played the, the swine lead, the author who kind of, plucks this urchin from the gutters and wants to write about it in The Brat, and now he plays one of the co-leads in Bachelor's Affairs. And this guy fascinated me because I don't think I've ever seen him before, but he seemed to be kind of an amalgam of like a proto Orson Welles and Melvin Douglas mashup. But I want to find out more about this guy because he was really fascinating. But he really is a Wells Douglas, and it's kind of uncanny. It's a breezy screwball, again, a precursor to the screwball comedy. It's more of a social farce than a screwball comedy. Bright, breezy, a lot of fun. Now, Alfred Worker, who directed that movie, is credited with directing the third feature that I saw today, He Walked by Night. Although most people postulate that Anthony Mann, the great Anthony Mann, actually directed the film. So I went in with the mindset of, let me rewatch this movie, which I've seen a bunch of times, never as pristine a state as this restoration. It looks fantastic. And it features the great John Alton's, great DP John Alton's cinematography. He's considered the noir cinematographer. And you've never seen, they polished up his camera work in this movie. It just looks breathtaking. You can see the shadows moving within the shadows. That's what he did best. But I rewatched it again, and it's hard for me to not think of this movie in terms of an Anthony Mann film. It's got his tone and his themes and the kind of things that he brought to the film noir genre. In earlier works like films like T-Men and Raw Deal, all made for Eagle Lion, which was a cooperative film company that was put together between J. Arthur Rank on the British side and David O. Selznick, so that each guy could take some of their B features and sell them overseas. So some of the movies from Selznick's ranks went over to England, and some of the stuff we got over in the USA from Ranks. Or Ranks. I digress. And they later became known as the company that released their biggest hit was probably they distributed the Red Shoes, the Archers, Powell and Pressburger's Red Shoes. It was not only their biggest hit in the States, but it was the Archers' biggest hit. But Anthony Mann, Anton Wundersman, he kind of cut his teeth on late 40s film noir, and this is the choicest example of those movies, I think. T-Man, Raw Deal, Border Incident, they're all great films, and they're all worth checking out. But He Walked by Night is an anomaly. It's not an anomaly, but it's a notch above. It's very modern in its narrative, and it's the way it presents the characters, and also the examination of a psychotic main character, Richard Basehart. I think it's his debut film, and he's just breathtaking in the movie. So it's also one of the earliest police procedurals. That's not the real word. Like the true crime procedurals. Right before that, I think, came The Naked City, Jules Dassin, not Jules. I keep forgetting he's Julie from the Bronx. So He Walked by Night sort of fits in there, and then later on you get the Phoenix City Story, and of course Fritz Lang's great Big Heat. But this was an early example of that. And then of course Mann went on to take that gritty noir sensibility and bring it to the Western. If he didn't invent the modern psychological Western, he was definitely there at the birth. So it's interesting to see where he came from, and they all stand up on the same quality. The Westerns weren't better than the noirs, and vice versa. They're all just essential pieces of film that you gotta look out for. But if you get a chance to see He Walked by Night, it exists in really crappy public domain versions, but tonight I got to see the new gussied up 4K version. It looks amazing. So anyway, so yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to make it back up for again, but there are some great movies coming up. 2 from GW Pabst are going to be screening tomorrow, Westfront 1918 and Comradeship, both dealing with World War I, one set during the war and one in its aftermath. And then the great Deluge is playing on Monday by Felix L. Feist, the movie that was long thought lost, but it's one of the earliest examples of the disaster movie. They did a lot of intricate model work to just destroy the planet in this movie. So, like I said, it was thought lost. It's screening her on Monday. I'm probably going to be up here for that. But please check the calendar. Please buy tickets. Get up here. It's great. It's MoMA. It's film. It's amazing. So I'm going to be signing off for now. But check back with me. Follow me on Facebook, on Twitter, just where to follow me by now. I got to tell you. But definitely follow me on nitrates.tv on YouTube, my new channel. Please spread the word, and I'll check back in with you soon. But in the meantime, this is Joseph Falls from nitratestock.net signing off and saying again, stick with me, stockers.